did we get it wrong on BYU? And when I say did we get it wrong on BYU, what I mean is, did we overvalue BYU as a football team? Because the struggles that we saw against Oregon were almost understandable. Frustrating. Did they drive you crazy? Did they get dominated? Yes. But you come home against Wyoming on Saturday night, and you came out of the gate completely flat, and you got dominated for a quarter by Wyoming football. And that's a little concerning to me, Jake, because you felt like after what happened up in Eugene that BYU would come back and they would come out of the gates flying, and that's just not what we saw.
Yeah, and I think this whole conversation about BYU starting slow is definitely something that has to get fixed in this program. I mean, it's not, this isn't new for this particular team, and I think that, starting slow just can't keep happening. Like, again, it goes without saying, like, this week you've got 3 days to prepare for Utah State, and they're coming to Lavelle. So, what is the start of this game look like? There's going to be a lot of emotions. There's going to be, obviously playing for the wagon wheel and the pride of the state and like everything you have going on. It's a big game, regardless of where Utah State may be as a program, and so to me, this whole starting slow thing just can't continue to happen, because inevitably what you wind up doing, and this is kind of what we've talked about a lot with BYU specifically, is you wind up being in a situation where you need big plays to kind of break out of that funk. When you start slow, you need the Keanu Hill bomb or something early in the game. You need, what Tyler Algier provided for you last year. You need that thumping running back to do some things for you, and they don't have that. With all due respect to the boys in that running back room, like, you don't have that this year. And so to me, I think, I don't know what the recipe to start faster is. I'm always a big fan of getting your quarterback in his groove early, get some early completions, get those guys in rhythm. But it just didn't seem like that was even a possibility when you were playing Wyoming. It just seemed like you kind of came out. Wyoming was playing with a ton of energy, and I'm just going to keep saying it. Every single week you're going to get the opposition's best because you're BYU and you're having a good season. So you can't afford to just assume that people are going to roll out and be average against you. You gotta assume they're going to bring their absolute best, and that requires us to bring our best. And if we don't do that, we're going to be playing from behind in the first half, which I think you can't continue to do and expect to win bigger games, like against your Notre Dames, your Arkansas specifically coming up on the schedule.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a heavy question about why BYU comes out of the gate slow, and I think the run game has a lot to do with it. And I think one of the bigger questions we're going to leave this weekend with is, did we find a number one running back in Provo in Miles Davis? I think that's a huge question mark. And I think when you look at all of the hype that was around Chris Brooks, and I think a lot of BYU observers were excited about Christopher Brooks and coming in from Cal, bringing, that explosiveness to the running game, finding a way to replace Tyler Algier. And that just has not materialized through the first 4 games. And I think now what you see in Miles Davis is you see a guy that came out and hit a couple of home runs, and everybody's calling him Aaron Judge now. And see, that was
see what he did there? He hit home runs. Aaron Judge is a Yankee who has 61, I think it is, or whatever the number is now. He hit home runs and hit home runs. It all kind of gels together. Stuff.
But I think that's a legitimate question about Miles Davis now. I mean, I don't think you have a number one running back, and I don't think that'll emerge this year. That's just my opinion. I like Miles Davis. Obviously, you got to love the performance that he put up, but Jake, I don't think he's got the size to consistently do what number one running backs in college football need to do, and I think that's why we were all so excited about Chris Brooks, is he brought the size and the ability. I think they're running back by committee for the rest of the way.
Yeah, well, I think the conundrum with the Christopher Brooks situation, when you compare it to, Miles Davis' performance, is Miles Davis, is obviously someone who basically transferred or switched positions from wide receiver, and he's a great athlete. Like, let's not beat around the bush here. He is a phenomenal athlete, and I'm glad to see that he had success early on with running back, but I think the conundrum for the program is that Christopher Brooks is a running back through and through. Christopher Brooks is supposed to be a guy that you can just say, hey, let's hand it off to you and see what you can do. And so when there are questions looming around the program, and it's not as though, they've been brought up specifically, but if you have paid attention to Christopher Brooks's game, there are a lot of people saying, well, maybe this guy is not someone who loves contact as a running back. Maybe this guy is not someone who's going to be a thumper in the A-gap that you can count on for 3-4 yards a carry. And that, to me, is what he was advertised as. So now I think you're totally right. Miles Davis comes in, has some huge game, and now we think he's the best back since sliced bread. And I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but let's see what you do this week. Like, it's a short sample size. I love his performance. I love what he did, but the truth is that this program needs an RB1. This program needs someone that takes that job. It's the classic situation in sports where you have 3 running backs, so you have no running backs. That's the problem. And one of these guys has to step up and take it.
Well, and I think everybody's favorite quarterback's the backup. Everybody's favorite running back is the backup.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking at it now, and I think when you look at what's ahead of you here with Utah State, I mean, you see the number on the screen. You're a 24.5-point home favorite Thursday night on ESPN against Utah State, and I still maintain this is a very dangerous game. And I think when you look at what Utah State is going to bring to the yard, I think this is going to be a very difficult game. And I say the same thing for Utah. I think this Oregon State game that's coming up is a very difficult game.
Yeah.
But it's October now. We're heading for Halloween, and you look at where BYU is. You know what? We overvalued BYU, I think, because one of the other things that I think we need to talk about, whether it's the running backs or the defensive line. I mean, Wyoming came out and pushed BYU around for a quarter, and that was really surprising. And I don't care if you come out flat. I don't care if you are struggling. It doesn't really matter to me. You cannot allow the Wyoming Cowboys, with all due respect, that's a great program. They're playing really good football. Wyoming can never come to Provo and push you around.
Yeah.
And that happened on Saturday night at Lavelle. I mean, that's an issue, Coach. Like, for sure, like, that was surprising to me that Wyoming was able to come in and really move BYU's defensive line around. That was surprising. On the other side of the football, I thought BYU's offensive line played quite well, frankly.
Yeah.
I think that they got – I mean, the Harris LaChance pancake block that we saw,
dude.
The double was that Puka put out was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the offensive line is more than doing the job. The issue on this BYU team is, A, I think we overvalued BYU football. B, now you start to see where the holes in this roster are. Up front, I think you have some concerns. I think you're fine at the wide receiver position. I think you're fine in the secondary. I think you're fine in the linebackers. Their defensive line got moved by Wyoming.
Yeah.
By the way, anybody else surprised that Max Tooley missed time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That seemed like that kind of flew under the radar. The Max Tooley situation. It just seemed like it rolled out, and all of a sudden he wasn't playing, and so. I think what we're really talking about here with this program is injury management. I mean, if you look across the board, guys like Max Tooley missing time is just, I mean, I'm not going to say it's out of the blue, but it is pretty random, I have to say. I mean, obviously the Tua and Gunner situation needs to resolve itself. Like, obviously, and I think I said Tua, I mean Puka. The Puka and Gunner situation need to resolve themselves. I mean, obviously Puka takes the big hit and Gunner suited up before the game and then didn't play. So, I mean, at some point, we can sit here and say the roster is fine, but if the guys aren't playing, the roster's not fine. I mean, you got to figure out a solution here.
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly important conversation. I mean, the Puka Nacua Injuries. I mean, this is why you cannot, in my opinion, rush people back. I mean, everybody's upset about, we were talking about how Puka Nacua and Gunner Romney were game time decisions. And, BYU fans were losing their mind. And one fan was calling BYU a liar. And it's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know what you're dealing with when it comes to things like high ankle sprains or lacerated kidneys, which is reported the injury that Gunner Romney's dealing with. Like, you cannot rush these things. And I think what we saw was Puka Nacua was not ready to play.
Yeah.
He was simply physically not ready to go with the ankle. And now you're going to pay the price for that because it looked like he re-injured that injury full stop. I mean, it looked like he re-injured the ankle, full stop. So you're probably resetting the timeline on that. And unfortunately, we'll see what happens with him, and we'll see how long he's out. But you cannot force guys back into the lineup because you want them there.
Facts.
I mean, it's just, and again, whether it's the Tua concussion or, the Tua back injury, or the Puka ankle or Gunner's kidney, this Brandt Kuithe injury, frankly, is another one. Huge story.
Yeah.
And this is terrible. I mean, he was having a monster campaign.
Yeah.
For Utah, and he appeared Brandt Kuithe appeared to injure his knee significantly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nice to see Money Parks actually have a reception because he's a guy that's disappointing. And yes, obviously, Utah dominated Arizona State.
Right.
No doubt about that. Brandt Kuithe feels like a loss.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we're on a Victory Monday here where you get BYU and Utah winning. The Chicago Bears win. NBA training camp opens tomorrow. Like, what's not to win today,
Seriously.
right? But it doesn't feel like a Victory Monday.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It feels like we're struggling at BYU. We're struggling now at Utah because of this Brandt Kuithe situation. Like, it doesn't feel like a win.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel real positive. And, and obviously, when you hear Witt or Kalani or hell, I mean, even Miles Davis and his, chipper mood last night, like, you just sit around and listen to these guys talk and you watch where the program is at. And you're like, yeah, you might be winning football games, but the expectations for these two teams aren't just to win football games. The expectation is to do some things in the postseason. And so, when you look around these programs, it's like, man, like this is not Alabama and Georgia we're talking about. This is not, big time, best in the country programs. These are good programs that should make some noise come bowl season. And the problem is that when you have injuries in BYU or Utah level programs, it is hard to backstop them. It's hard to backfill them. And this is where, like for Utah, this is where you start to get concerned because, as we know, Kyle Whittingham has always been committed to the defense.
Yes.
Been a defense first guy. And offenses come second. So for Cam Rising, you lose Brandt Kuithe likely for the year. I think it's for the year. We'll get an update today on that. But let's assume he's out for the year. Who are you going to? I mean, yeah, Dalton Kincaid, sure, but now, like, Devon Vele, it's time, bud. Like, all these other guys, it's time to get going.
It is time. Absolutely. Monty in the Morning, presented by the Advocates Utah Injury Attorneys.
If you've been injured in a car accident, even if it wasn't your fault, you still have to deal with the consequences, like overdue medical bills, car repairs, and worse, insurance companies that try their hardest not to pay their fair share. No need to worry, though. The Advocates are here to help.
All right, there you go. The Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business, presenting sponsors of the Monty Show. Let's hear from you. I'd really like to get your thoughts today as we react to BYU and Utah both winning, but significant questions surrounding both programs.
Yeah.
And, I think I just feel awful for Brandt Kuithe if this is the injury we think it is.
Yeah.
And we'll find out today. Obviously, Witt said that we would get an update on his knee today, but if this is the injury that we think it is, this is a brutal reality about the issues in college football. Is that Brandt Kuithe could have gone to the NFL, probably should have gone to the NFL. He comes back, they really move him into more of a wide receiver position. He dominates. I mean, the kid's going to be a high draft pick in the NFL, and now he hurts his knees. So we hope that is not the injury that that we all think it is.
Yeah.
That's what I think you're looking for. Rance says the answer is yes. Notre Dame will put a hurting on them. Well, we'll find out in 2 weeks. By the way, they've got to get past this Utah State game. Might want to win that one first. Let's see. Kent State hung around with Georgia. There are some G5 schools that are decent, more parity with the Porto. They won't beat Arkansas or Notre Dame. I don't know. Arkansas struggled pretty mightily over the weekend. And I actually don't think the issue for BYU is their run defense. They're going to have to stop the run more consistently.
Yeah.
And if you are, if you're going in October and you don't have injuries, you're probably not playing padded football. injuries are not an excuse. They're a reality in college football. So I see a lot of people pointing that out. What's up, Lopesan Gabe? Good to see you. Show 800, he says. Let's go. Yeah, today is show number 800.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
We've done 800 shows.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That is absolutely insane. Come on now. How about 800 likes for our 800?
Yeah, come on. Let's go. Rack them up.
800 likes.
Rack them up.
Let's go.
Let's
Thumbs
go.
up, maybe?
Yeah.
What's up? Edwin says, good morning. Tanner Plummer says, what's up? Teddy Wayman, what's up with you, my friend? Good to see you. Let's see. Tanner says, we were all wrong to overvalue BYU. Well, I feel like we're starting to learn that right now. I feel like we put a little too much confidence in their depth on the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is BYU can compete and be on the field with anybody when they're healthy. The problem is, once again, I mean, the injuries are just eating them up. You can only go so long without your best talent in Puka and Gunner, because again, the defense is the defense. Like, it's never going to be elite at BYU, but it's been good enough, and that's the thing. It's been good enough to keep you in games, and now it's like, man, these injuries are just, holding us down a little bit.
Yeah, but I think if you look at the wide receiver room is deep. I mean, you look at Keanu Hill, Keanu Hill, I thought Braden Cosper obviously had a breakout game. Isaac Rex, Miles Davis catching the ball out of the backfield obviously is a big deal for them. But I think the Cody Epps touchdown, 4 catches, 13 yards for Cody Epps with a touchdown. I think those are all big moments because you're going to need all of those guys to step up. Cody Epps, yeah. I think I'll just say again, I think Cody Epps is a vital contributor to that wide receiver room. Until you get Puka and Romney back on a regular basis, I think Cody Epps becomes an invaluable contributor at wide receiver.
Right.
And is he capable? I know he's capable. Is it a mental thing? Is it a reps thing? I don't know. But Cody Epps, if this team has aspirations, of being a 2-loss team, Cody Epps is going to have to step up and play big moments and contribute big moments for this team. I think he is. Obviously, Cosper stepping up's huge. I think we've all known that Hill is a big play wide receiver, but Cody Epps is going to have to step up, honestly, if they're going to go far. Provo Coug fan says BYU always wins when it wins on they should lose, Baylor, and they lose the ones they should win.
TBA.
Yeah, TBA. Well, let's hope it's not TBA. 513 Bearcat says, relax, it's only 3 games. Glad you have 3 wins right now. Well, it's 4 games.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, you're not in a bad spot, but I think you're seeing the shortage in talent in the program on some level when you can't backfill guys like, Puka and Gunner. I mean, I know I keep saying it. I don't mean to be repetitive, but you got to develop your skill positions farther. Like, you have to see this next wave come in and consistently produce. Because that's what I'm going to keep saying about, like, guys like Miles Davis or whoever you want to point to, whatever younger guy you want to point to. Great, you had one good game, and it's awesome you did that, because we could be sitting here talking about how you did nothing and there's no answers. So it is awesome you had a great game, but now we got to see that over a couple games.
Yep, totally agree. Football 50, 10 of the hour, every hour on the Monty Show. We bring you the biggest headlines in football. Certainly locally, I think it is without question. The Brandt Kuithe knee injury, I think, is probably the biggest story in football here in the state of Utah. His loss is massive. I don't even know how you categorize that. I don't know how you recover from that. Certainly BYU having a rebound pretty quick here. They beat Wyoming. They are now a 24.5 point favorite over Utah. That they're not covering that number.
No.
Listen, man. Saturday, Thursday turns are very difficult.
It's going to be a tight game.
24.5 points? Are you kidding me? 24.5 points. BYU favored over Utah State. That's a big one. And I also think, by the way, Russell Wilson last night on Sunday Night Football going up against Jimmy G. Well, we don't have any music today.
Well, you didn't talk about Papa Murphy's yet, so I've been waiting for you to talk about Papa Murphy's.
I actually did say football 50% by Papa Murphy's Pizza. 10 of the hour, every hour, we bring you the biggest stories in football. How surprised were you at the ineptitude on Sunday Night Football? Jimmy G, Russell Wilson. Is Russell Wilson a mistake for the Denver Broncos?
It's looking like that so far. I mean, I think that you also have to consider that, it's his first season with the team. Like, there were always going to be growing pains. There are always going to be things that they had to work out, but I don't think people quite expected it to be this crappy, like this inept, like this low scoring, and this just not good offense. I just don't think people expected it to be this bad, and frankly, neither did I, but I would expect them to get it going. I don't know. I mean, what else would you expect? If he doesn't get it going for the rest of the year, I kind of find that hard to believe.
Well, obviously, he came through. Denver won the game. He comes through late in the game. I mean, it's just surprising to me how inept Russell Wilson has been for the Denver Broncos. And I mean inept.
Yeah.
He is. I mean, he's not the same guy he was in Seattle. I mean, obviously, we saw some flashes of it last night with the chest pass, but I don't know about all that. Then there's this Tua Tagovailoa story in Miami.
Yeah.
Tua Tagovailoa yesterday claims that he did not have a concussion, but a back injury on this hit right here. You see watch his head. Boom. Now watch where his hands go. Absolutely a concussion. The NFLPA and the NFL are going to open a joint investigation into how this was handled. Jake, was it a concussion or a back injury?
Yeah, I think it was a concussion all day. I mean, I just don't think there's any way around it. Like, we've seen this so many times in the league. The head hitting the ground concussion is not new. It's been happening for years, and I think that, Tua's a tough guy, clearly, and I give him credit for that, but there are limits, and there are lines, and he should have never been back in this game.
This is a concussion. Like, I don't know how else. I have never had a back injury like that. I have known people for years who have battled with back injuries. I suppose this could be a result of a back injury. But when he hits his head, and I'll play the video again, when he hits his head, you're not going to see it in detail, but watch how quickly his hands go to his face mask, right?
It's Tom Brady. Just like when you watch these Tom Brady games right now, it's so obvious that they're just not gelling on offense yet. They're just not quite in sync, and Tom Brady's responsible for that, obviously, being him, but right here today, I think, it's Josh Allen. That's probably who I'd go with. But
even after what you saw yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Josh Allen is still has clearly one of the best arms in the league. Like, they fell short yesterday, no doubt about it.
Well, but based off of performances yesterday, I don't know how you're going anywhere but to number 12 in Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. As much as I hate to say that, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL right now, at least from what I saw this weekend. I mean, look, with all due respect to Josh Allen, you got to manage the clock better than that. That doesn't happen. If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, the Bills are winning that game. There's just no doubt about that. And when I look at Tom Brady, Tom Brady's the best quarterback in the NFL when Mike Evans plays. When Mike Evans does not play, he's not the best quarterback in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers right now does not have a premier number one wide receiver, and they are still winning games. They go to Tampa and they win a game against what I think is the best defense in the NFL. I think it's Aaron Rodgers. Now, is Josh Allen close? Sure he is. I think Justin Herbert's on the periphery of that conversation, but he's injured, so we're not seeing the best from him. But I look around the league at all of these crappy quarterbacks, and let's have the conversation. What's wrong in Arizona? Is it Cliff Kingsbury or is it little Kyler? Because now, I guess, how do I put this correctly? They're starting to question whether Cliff Kingsbury should be fired in Arizona.
Yeah.
You're not firing the quarterback. You just signed him to a massive extension, which, again, if you're a Cardinal fan, Drunky the Clown is not exactly the smartest general manager in the world.
Right.
This is not Cliff Kingsbury's fault, but he will take the fall for it.
Yeah, and I think that's the natural progression in the NFL. Like, if you're a head coach, when things aren't working out, and specifically when you're a head coach who was brought in under the guise of being a quarterback guru, and your quarterback's not performing, and that offense is not performing, and then your quarterback after the game says that guys need to, quote, be awake and not be sleeping on their routes because I can do whatever I want. I just don't like the dynamic in Arizona right now. Kyler Murray thinks he's the greatest ever, and the wide receivers clearly aren't on the same page. The problem is those wide receivers have great talent, and they're veterans. You're talking about Zach Ertz. You're talking about guys like A.J. Green, who got hurt yesterday. Like, you're talking about guys who have been here. These aren't rookies. So I just think whether you look at the culture, you look at Kyler, you look at that offense, it's just you need a new voice.
By the way, Kyle J says, rip the chimes.
Yeah, sorry, man. Sorry.
No more chimes. It's been decided.
It was voted off the island, man.
It's been decided by the crowd. All right, would love to see in the comments your thoughts on the biggest stories in the NFL. I think Rance says, no, Cincy, way better squad. K. Nurin says BYU will be 2024 Big 12 champs and playoff winners. Kay, can I get some of what you're smoking? Are you no chance? No. Eric and Raleigh says, and the Broncos head coach is way over his head. Yeah, no kidding. What's up? Talking with Raphael podcast. Good morning, casuals. Talking with Raphael podcast
on PBS Radio.
By the way, Raphael, do we have a new listener to the show yet? Raphael's wife is close to giving birth. I do think that our show is so good it causes sex to happen, because not only is Raphael bringing a new listener to the Monty Show into the world, our guy Greg Hawkins is bringing a new listener into the world. Like, look, I know the Monty Show's an aphrodisiac.
Yeah. Hey, man, we're happy to facilitate.
I said the Monty Show's an aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
Rand says Texas Tech beat Texas. Tech's pretty fast and would handle BYU. How about the fact that Tech beat Texas? I'm telling
Unacceptable.
you, Steve Sarkisian better start winning big games, because just barely losing to Alabama is not beating Alabama. I don't know how to break it to you. Boyd Lake says back injuries and brain injuries are both neurological. Yeah, absolutely they are. Eric says it could be a neck whiplash, but it's definitely a concussion. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Is Lamar Jackson the best quarterback in the NFL?
Well, I think that Lamar is definitely one of the biggest stories in the NFL. I mean, this whole dynamic of him not having a long-term contract but still playing, just out of his mind. Like, I think it's definitely one of the biggest stories in the league. Yeah, and one of the biggest stories in the league is how good Papa Murphy's Pizza is.
No one goes all in on made-from-scratch freshness like Papa Murphy's. We go all in on quality. All in on craft. And on the Triple Pep Pizza, we go all in on pepperoni. Because when you go all in, people notice. Go all in with a limited-time Triple Pep Pizza, topped with 3 types of pepperoni for just $11.99. Papa Murphy's. Change the way you pizza.
Papa Murphy's Pizza presents Football at 50, 10 to the hour, every hour on the Monty Show. Make sure when you order your Papa Murphy's Pizza, you use promo code Monty25, MONTY25, Monty25 to get 25% off your order of $25 or more at Papa Murphy's Pizza. The Monty Show is presented by The Advocates, Utah Injury Attorneys, UtahAdvocates.com. Every single day we tell you they are the best injury attorneys in the business. Whether you are Tua Tagovailoa slamming your head on the ground, or you get hit by a car, or you get in an accident, or you trip and fall, or you're hurt at work. Are you injured and it's not your fault? Go to UtahAdvocates.com right now, because it's not your fault you got injured, and you deserve an advocate, somebody that will fight for you. UtahAdvocates.com. The Advocates present The Monty Show. The biggest stories in sports this morning, without question. I think probably the biggest story in football this morning is this Brandt Kuithe knee injury.
Yeah.
This is a big one, and I think there is no doubt that they are a different football team without Brandt Kuithe, their fine tight end for the Utah Utes. Here's Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham on his injured tight end.
Brandt Kuithe is probably the big negative of the game. We'll find out more tomorrow, but it doesn't look good. And we'll have a report on Monday at the press conference whether or not that's season ending. And I just felt horrible for the kid. Such a great teammate. He's a leader. He's a captain. Came back for another year to be with his team and help us win. And so we'll hope for the best. It's not definitive, but like I said, it doesn't look good.
We'll find out Monday if it's season ending.
Yeah, not great.
You don't love to hear that, and you see two guys that are really impacted by this story. They're Cam Rising, the starting quarterback for the Utah Utes, and Kyle Whittingham, the head coach, and I think he hit the nail on the head with Brandt Kuithe, and that is that this kid came back to play football. He's the captain of the team. He's a wonderfully talented tight end / wide receiver. And, Jake, I think this is a completely different football team without him.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I think the offense, is going to have to find its identity without him. I mean, that's how important he is to what they do on offense. You're talking about a guy who's getting, I think, by far the most targets on offense as far as like wide receivers / tight ends go. And you're talking about a guy who is a big voice in the huddle, in the locker room, just on the team as a whole. And that's why I say, losing him for the year while he, may still be on the sideline during games and stuff, and whatever that looks like, he may still be around the team. But man, to lose him for a year for the rest of the season and not probably for his career to be done at Utah would be just really sad, man. I mean, it just sucks. Like, he's a great teammate. And I think that's what the story with Brandt Kuithe is. He's a wonderful athlete, obviously key contributor, but he is a great teammate. And that's the hard part about it. And this is why guys don't come back. This is the whole, thing about going to the league or coming back to play for your squad at the college level. And this is why guys don't come back.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, this changes the dynamic of that offense. And we've talked a lot about Utah wide receivers on this show. We've all been waiting for Devon Vele to break out, and it feels like he's had a much larger footprint in the offense. A lot more targets, a lot more catches. Solomon Enos seems to be emerging. But now you're going to have to find a way to offset Brandt Kuithe. And I think, obviously, you have a wonderful tight end in Dalton Kincaid that has been impactful on this team. Obviously, we know how good Kincaid is, but I just don't think you replace him. I mean, Money Parks finally gets a reception. He's a guy you feel like can step in and take some of those targets, Jake, but I just don't think you replace him.
Yeah.
And I think with Oregon State coming to town Saturday at noon, this is going to be a huge test for the depth. And I think this also is a huge test and a huge marker to see who Cam Rising trusts, because I think when you have a guy the caliber of a Brandt Kuithe and the quality of a Brandt Kuithe, that's a guy that Cam Rising relies on.
Yeah.
When he's in a tough position, he knows exactly where Brandt's going to be, and he's going to throw the football there.
Yep.
And now you're going to have to figure out who that's going to be, and that's not just something where you say, oh, okay, well, I'll throw it to Dalton Kincaid. It's a relationship. It's a trust. It's a chemistry that's not easily built, not quickly built. But I think as far as straight targets go, Devon Vele and Solomon Enos are going to have to step up big time. And now you're going to have to put, if it's Kincaid 1 and Devon Vele 2, Solomon Enos 3, now Money Parks has got to be that fourth guy.
Yep.
And that's a big leap. At the Pac-12 level, it's not easy to go from being 5th, 6th, 7th to 4th. Like, you're counted on now. You've got to make plays. By the way, I also think one of the interesting things here is, you had your starting running back suspended or not eligible to play in the first half.
Yeah.
You look at Tavion Thomas and what he means to his team, Jake. How surprised by that were you?
Yeah, I think it is, it's surprising. I guess on some level I appreciate the fact that they kept it in-house and they essentially made it a thing where it was not made public as to why he was held out of the first half, but obviously he was, and I think that it is it is surprising, but at the same time, things happen, and Witt's obviously going to handle it how he sees fit, and I would expect Tavion Thomas to be on his best behavior moving forward. I would expect that Tavion Thomas would now understand, especially with the Brandt injury, that he even needs to step up, because just the same way with BYU, where if you can't run the football, it affects the passing game. That's not unique to BYU. That is on every football team at every level. If you are not able to control the game on the ground, you're not going to be effective through the air because of what the defense is able to do and how the defense leans on you. So to me, I think Tavion Thomas both needs to be on his best behavior, but also has this big opportunity to say, hey, I am the guy. I am going to step into this role. Yeah,
and I also think it was no accident that Jackson got all those carries at running back. I think, what did he have? I want to say he had 9 carries. Yeah, Jaquindon Jackson had 9 carries against Arizona State. 9 carries. That's a lot of carries for a guy that was a quarterback.
Yeah.
Jaquindon Jackson's now a full-time running back, according to Kyle Whittingham. And you look at the distribution, Jalen Glover, 13, Jaquindon, 9, Micah Bernard, 8. Like, that's a little surprising. If you're a Utah fan, I'm not telling you to be concerned, but this is what makes Kyle Whittingham such an elite football coach is he's going to take a quarterback, he's going to make him a running back, and that running back's going to have success because, frankly speaking, Jaquindon Jackson, 9 for 31, 3.4 yards per carry. with a touchdown, that I would say that's a successful debut as a running back. Yeah, that's productive,
and that's what I mean. You see, so those numbers, that's precisely what I'm talking about with the BYU running game, right? And the fact that Utah's able to do that allows Cam Rising to do more things in the passing game. You don't have to do 5, 6, 7 yards a carry. That's great if you do, but really to be successful, you just need 3 and really 4 yards a carry would be ideal, because if you're getting 4 yards a carry, now you're ahead of the sticks. It opens up the playbook. Now you can do whatever you want. And that's why I say, like, with Tavion or any of these guys, they just got to get, production early in the downs to be in a good spot to move the football down the field. And frankly, what I'm really worried about with the Oregon State matchup is the physicality of Oregon State. With not having, like, one of the things Brandt does really well is he's physical as hell early in his route. He moves people to allow himself to get that space. So if they don't have that kind of physicality early in the play, I don't know what that looks like for this offense. So they're going to need to make adjustments.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's obviously a really important moment in time for the 2022 Utah Utes. I mean, this is one of those stretches where you rely on a guy like Kyle Whittingham's experience in his command of this program to really develop talent. And I think, again, you just look at the fact that you had a bunch of guys that weren't really part of this offense be part of this offense in Tempe. So, yeah, which is really exciting. So we'll see. Kyle Chase says, need more from Jalen Dixon going forward too. Well, maybe, but how many opportunities are there to go around? I mean, yeah. I think when you look at the carry distribution, I think Jalen only had 1 carry, 1 for 11 yards. But, I mean, you got to remember that Cam Rising's a mobile quarterback, so those are carries there. You look at Micah Bernard's going to continue to get reps in this offense. Jaquindon Jackson, to me, is a great unknown because he's a hell of an athlete. You can see you give him just a step and a half, and he's by you.
Yeah.
I mean, he's by 2-3 guys in that small of a span. I mean, he's explosive for sure. I just will again say Kincaid, Bailey, Parks, and Enos have to step up. Yeah. I mean, that to me will define who Utah is as a program this year.
Well, and I think, for the running back stable at Utah, you have what I view as a lot of potential as far as the dynamic is concerned. Like, I look at guys like Micah Bernard and Tavion Thomas, and I say, okay, those are guys that can lay the wood to the defense a little bit. Those are guys that can thump a little bit. And then you get, Jaquindon, and he's got the speed. And that's why I say, like, you have this opportunity to create something out of what is a big injury on your football team, just the same way you do at BYU with Miles Davis and company. So that's why I say both of these programs are in this spot where you're suffering injuries. Injuries have come and are alive and well in both programs. But the fact is it is incumbent on the coaching staff to make something out of the situation. And so, as far as winning is concerned, that's just going to come down to stepping up and empowering these running backs to play their best game. Because one of the things that I think BYU does really well, better than most programs, is says to kids, like Jake Oldroyd as an example, saying to Jake, hey, man, we believe in you. We know you miss kicks, but we believe in you. Hey, Miles, we know you haven't played a whole hell of a lot, but follow the game plan, follow the scheme, and you will be fine.
Yeah.
And then guys go out and perform.
I don't know. I think it's just a really interesting... It's a really interesting time in the state of Utah. I mean, we're coming off of 2 wins here with Utah and BYU, and it just doesn't feel that way. I mean, You look at the way that BYU played against Wyoming, that's absolutely disappointing. Specifically that first quarter, just to come out flat like that.
They let you down.
I mean, it's unacceptable to come out after the way you performed against Oregon, to come out slow, uninspired, unenergetic, to play that kind of defense. Not to have Max Tooley and like to be missing guys, and everybody has injuries. It's not an excuse. It's a reality.
Yeah.
Injuries are part of football. This BYU defense was not good Saturday night against Wyoming. That is a real concern as you head for a Thursday night tilt at home, obviously, against Utah State. I warn you now, it's great that you're a 24-point favorite against Utah State. You're not covering that number. I would be stunned if BYU covers that number. And now we're going to wait and hear more about Puka Nacua and see what his situation is.
Yeah.
That was clearly not the right decision to rush him back. That was a mistake, and I say rush him back. It was a mistake to bring Puka Nacua back. His ankle was not ready to go. the fact you had him out there and he wasn't even being targeted spoke probably all you needed to hear about his readiness and his fitness to play in that game.
Yeah.
And then just simply trying to stop and cut back off that ankle, and you saw it bounce through the turf there as his cleat caught. That looked incredibly painful. And he clearly was not ready to go. Again, high ankle sprains are a 6-week injury. And it's just it's disheartening to see him limp off the field like that. And now you ask yourself, well, hey, not only are we missing our 2 best wide receivers, okay, well, we're deep. Keanu Hill performed at a very high level. Okay, we're good. I think you're fine at wide receiver.
Right.
Christopher Brooks is almost a non-factor. He gets a gimme carry in the red zone for the touchdown. But now you have Miles Davis, this emerging candidate to be RB1. I don't know, does he have the size? Does he have the stamina? Does he have the technique to be your number 1 back full-time now? I guess we're going to find out. But if I'm Kalani Sitake, Jake, I'm going running back by committee for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I think that the only way you're not going to go running back by committee the rest of the year is if Miles was to just be outright better than these other guys. Like if Miles was to just step up and and take control of the situation. That is the only way that you're not running back by committee. And frankly, I would love to see it. I think mentality is one of the biggest problems in that running back room. Like, I love, Christopher Brooks and his body and his game and everything, but the fact is the mentality's not correct. Like, you got to be willing to get the football from Jaron and smash the A-gap, man. You got to go in there with some speed and some intent and some want to. And that's kind of what I feel like is lacking out of the running back room at BYU sometimes. It's just like, all right, ho-hum, like, we're just going to kind of, jog up into the A-gap here and we'll see what happens. Like, that's not what you can do. Like, you have to have intent. You got to be mean about it. And that's what I hope. I don't know if Miles is that guy or not, but I hope that one of these guys is that guy. That's what they need right now.
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, it is clearly one of these situations where you have to identify what is best for the club going forward. You're a 24.5 point favorite.
It's a huge number, bro.
On a Thursday, that's
I mean,
the
on
thing.
paper, they're better, but I agree with you. This is not an on-paper kind of game.
No. Not 24.5 on a Thursday night is a
Against
huge
Utah
number.
State. Like, I think a lot of people outside the state of Utah are like, oh, yeah, it's at Lavelle, it's Utah State. They're going to smash these guys. And while I agree they're going to win handily, Utah State is never as easy as that. Utah State is never, just going to roll over and not give BYU their absolute best to the point where they're breaking people's legs and stuff. Like, we know what Utah State is. We know what that program's been about. We know that they had all these issues, in week 1 and 2 with the fans and everything that they dealt with that. Like, we know what's going on there. So that's why I say this is not a joke of a game, in my opinion. This is one that you do have to take seriously.
Yeah, and I think looking at the fact, Utah State loses again to UNLV.
Like, if you're Utah State, aren't you just pissed off? Like, you just walk around all day pissed off.
I don't even know what you say. I mean, Logan Bonner threw 5 interceptions.
Dude.
Against UNLV, bro. They've lost 3 straight. They beat UConn. They've lost 3 straight to Alabama, Weber, and UNLV.
Yeah.
And you've given up 20, 55, 35, and 34.
It's really despicable.
I have no idea what is going on with Utah State, but I will maintain what I said last week, and I know a bunch of BYU fans hopped on my Twitter and were ripping me for it. This Utah State game is a dangerous, dangerous game.
Yeah.
This is a dangerous game, especially from what we saw, and it's just going to be interesting to see how they handle it because, here on the Monty Show presented by the Utah Advocates, I think we've been pretty clear about this. BYU doesn't need much adversity to tank their season.
No.
And now you feel like you have some adversity. You have significant injury concerns across that defensive front 7. Puka and Gunner are clearly injury issues. You don't have a number 1 running back. I mean, it just feels like you are in turmoil. And I guess the biggest question is, if you look at the BYU schedule now,
yeah,
how many losses do you see on that schedule remaining? I mean, you've got one now to Oregon. When this season's over, how many losses will BYU have? We'll talk about that in 30 seconds after we hear from the Advocates.
You just can't comprehend how much energy there is in a collision like that. This vehicle was coming towards me and it swerved over into my lane and hit me head on. Spent 9 days in the hospital. There was just no way I was going to be able to do all of what needed to be done on my own. I called the Advocates and we got the paperwork started then and there. They were able to do things for me that I couldn't have done myself. If someone I knew got in an accident, I would tell them to contact the Advocates.
Absolutely. If you're in an accident, get to UtahAdvocates.com. Talking BYU and Utah football right now on the Monty Show. Both teams going to win this weekend, but it feels like a loss as Dalton Kincaid becomes your number one target for the Utes with Brandt Kuithe injured. And you have questions across the board for BYU. I want to play this bite from Kalani Sitake talking about Chris Brooks, because I think this is a big deal. Christopher Brooks essentially was a non-factor, even though he gets a touchdown. I think most of us would agree Christopher Brooks was simply a non-factor in the running game.
The plan was to see who can get the hot hand, and Miles felt, A-Rod and the offense felt good with Miles running the ball. And, we'll do it by committee right now and see who's going to get us the best chance to get this run game going. We needed something to go. The last 2 weeks wasn't good enough, and you can only blame the O-line for so long, so the challenge is for all those guys to step up and make plays and find a way to protect the football, ball security, and then find ways to make runs and find ways to puncture.
Wow. Did you hear what he said there? You can only blame the offensive line for so long.
Doesn't make you feel responsible.
I mean,
I
don't
think real. I think that's a really honest answer.
I don't think this is the O-line's fault.
No.
I don't think this running conundrum has been the O-line's fault.
Let's settle this right now.
I think there is a lack of chemistry in the running game. And, somebody said that Boyd Lake said it. Jaron Hall is BYU's key to success.
Yeah.
I totally agree. This offense goes as he goes. And I think that Jaron's going to have to will them to some wins. And as we talked about a minute ago, how many wins or how many losses will this team have?
Right.
Right now, I think they're, if I'm sitting here, they're going to beat Utah State. They're not covering 24.5. They're going to beat Utah State. I think they're going to beat Notre Dame in Las Vegas. They're going to lose to Arkansas, which will be 2. I think they're going to lose at Liberty, which will be 3. I think they come back home and they beat East Carolina. I think they beat Boise. I think they beat Utah Tech, and I think they lose to Stanford at Stanford. So I think they're a 4-loss team.
Yeah, I mean that's totally realistic. I could totally see that happening. I guess I just disagree in the games that they're going to lose. Like I'm not nearly as confident in that Notre Dame win. I think that it really depends on where this team's at health-wise. Like I could easily see the Utah State game being a game where you just get your ass beat the whole game, but you win the game. Like it's a physical, just Utah State saying, "Hey,
it's a
we're
Utah
out to
State
get you."
game.
Yeah,
it's a Utah State BYU
exactly.
game.
Like for anybody who watches football in the state of Utah, you know what that means. And I think that when you look at that schedule, like let's say you sustain another injury against Utah State, then you're going to Vegas. Jesse Harsh and company will be there. Congratulations, bud. But you go to Vegas and you play that game. Who have you lost? Who's still healthy? Who's available? Jaron, has been healthy. He's been available. He's played really well this season. So, assuming he's available and you don't have quarterback issues, I think you're in that game. You're exactly right. But I don't know, man. I just think that it's a lot to expect them to beat Notre Dame. So my thing would be they would lose to Notre Dame, you'd beat Liberty, and then I think the rest of the way is kind of the same of what you were talking about there.
I don't know, man. I think this BYU team does a couple of things well.
Mm-hmm.
They're turning into a team that relies on the big play. They're turning into a team that needs the home run to win.
Keanu Hill every week.
The one thing that we're seeing is they're not a ball possession team because they haven't been able to run the ball.
Yeah.
And if Miles Davis brings that ability, that's great. The one thing this team can't turn into is a pure RPO offense where Jaron's keeping the ball a lot more.
Yeah.
That has historically been a recipe for disaster. So I think if this team's going to win games, I think Jaron Hall's going to have to throw them to victory.
Yeah, well, and I think that, in prior seasons of Jaron Hall's career, that would be a concern. But this season, clearly he's developed, and clearly he's better and very much capable of doing that. My biggest thing with the throwing game is kind of what you were saying. Like, you can't just be big play reliant. Like, I need to see, spreading the ball around. Like, it's kind of what is going on in Kansas City with the Chiefs, right? Going into this season, not having Tyreek Hill, the mindset was, well, we're going to have to spread it around and we can't have pride in this wide receiver room. I kind of feel like it's the same thing at BYU as long as Puka and Gunner are out. And I would assume that that's still a couple weeks out. Like, I don't think that those guys are going to be back.
I would say so.
Like, I don't think that we can sit here and be like, yeah, Puka's definitely going to be back. No, he's not going to be back. You're going to be lucky to have Puka for Notre Dame. I think you'll have Gunner for Notre Dame, but I don't know about Puka. And so I
would be shocked if they did.
Yeah, my point is you got to have a game plan where you're able to spread the football around. But again, this brings me back to the same point, and this is why guys like Miles Davis are so damn important, because you need a back that can set the tone early in the game. Hey, we're going to run it on you. We're going to pound the rock, and then that will open the pass game. But until they can do that, I just think it's a lot to expect Jaron to be able to pass them to victories consistently.
M. Morris, good morning to you, says, at home, BYU has a chance against Arkansas. Notre Dame would get beat by Wyoming. Notre Dame would not get beat by Wyoming. Notre Dame is a work in progress.
Yeah, well, because you're on the team.
Right. Got the win over the weekend.
Wow, Dad. Wow.
But, I also think there was an interesting and I should have had this ready. My apologies. There was an interesting stat in that game that I think really stands out. If you are a BYU fan and you did not see BYU Notre Dame and North Carolina.
UNC.
Notre Dame was 8 of 14 on third down.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things plaguing this BYU defense is third down efficiency.
Keep it real.
And yeah, I think when you look at Notre Dame is a very conservative offensive team, right? I think there's no question when you look at Pine and you look at the Notre Dame offense and you look at how balanced they are running the football. You want to talk about running back by committee, from Estime to Tyree Diggs, like Drew Pine carried it 6 times, like. You look at their offense, they average 8.5 yards per reception.
Yeah.
They're not an explosive offense. They are completely opposite of what BYU does. Notre Dame wants to control the football and march down the field on you.
Mm-hmm.
If BYU can somehow get running back by committee to work the way that Notre Dame has it, and they're going to need Christopher Brooks to hit the right hole. I mean, the problem has been that Chris is just not run the offense. I'm not going to say he doesn't know the offense, but he's not executing his job. He's not doing his job.
Yeah, it's not second nature. Hey, where am I looking for the cutback? Because the truth is, in the running game, the hole is in a different spot every time. Like, it's not exactly the same spot on the field. I know that that's rocket science, right? Like, it's in a different spot. So as a running back, you're looking in general areas for that hole to develop. Now, whether that hole is, a sliver or whether that's the Grand Canyon is not really up to you. It's just your job to go ahead and get through it. And so to me, I look at Miles Davis, I look at Christopher Brooks, like I look at that, even guys like Jackson McChesney, like these guys that, like a Jackson McChesney's probably
give him
not
the
ball. Right now he's probably not going to get a lot of the ball, but I agree. Give the guy the ball. See what he can do, even if it's 3 carries a game. What's wrong with that? So to me, until you find a number one, no doubt about it, running back that can just punish a defense, you have to do some soul searching. You got to go through and figure out, do we have that guy on the team? And is that a guy that we haven't given opportunity to? That's what I think you got to do these next couple of weeks, because, yeah, I mean, being a 4-loss team heading into the Big 12 is not ideal at all. That's not what you were hoping for, but if you can somehow find, even if you were to give a guy like McChesney 5 carries and you saw just a glimmer, just like, hey, yeah, we could give this guy, 4 or 5 carries a game just to spell our other 2, that to me is still a win.
He's got to be healthy, though. I mean, McChesney, the issue is we still don't know what's wrong with him.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to ring alarm bells, but at some point, BYU's got to stop stacking injuries. I mean, this is every year now. You feel like there is an overwhelming amount of injuries, and thankfully the offensive line has not been included in this. Although, Kingsley goes out in that game limping off with a knee, but I think, largely BYU on a year-in, year-out basis, we're always using, injuries as an excuse. It's just not an excuse anymore. It's a reality. Every team in college football, the NFL, everybody deals with injuries because football hurts, man. Yeah. It is what it is. And if you want to become a national power, and if you want to, drink the blue Kool-Aid and think you're going to win Big 12 championships, you better build depth. That's the bottom line, because I got news for you. Watching the Big 12, that's a really good football league. And if you look at the top of that league, now, granted, Oklahoma took a terrible loss this weekend, but you look at the best teams in that league, they're all deep. And BYU is not. And we're learning that the hard way, especially on that defensive line. They've got to get better. And you look at the running game, and the running game it's simple. Miles Davis is not here if Jackson McChesney is healthy.
Right.
That's the bottom line. But now he is here. And now you're going to have to respect what he did against Wyoming until he shows you he's not worthy of that.
Yes.
But Christopher Brooks is the guy you want to be your RB1. There is, in my mind, Jake, there's no doubt about that.
Well, and I think it's become this whole situation where it's like now this is like a talking point for the program. Like, hey, you brought this guy in, and he was this special talent, and he hasn't quite found his stride yet. It hasn't quite worked out, and then all of a sudden you roll out against Wyoming, and he gets, what did you say? He had like 2 carries or whatever the hell it was, or whatever his numbers were.
10 yards in that. One of them was that 6-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, like he wasn't very present against Wyoming, and so I don't know. Is the thought, hey, sitting him down and giving him very few carries will wake him up? I don't know. I would love to know. I guess my point is I would love to know what the struggle is for him. Is it you don't know where the cutback lane is supposed to be? Is it you don't know where the hole is supposed to be? Or is it that you're just not that guy? I don't know.
You're not playing reaction football. You are not letting your instincts guide your feet.
Yeah.
He is overthinking it. You can tell that. And I think that we've talked about this ad nauseum with Chris Brooks as we talk BYU football here on the Monty Show, presented by the Advocates, Utah Injury Attorneys, UtahAdvocates.com. I think the one thing that's very clear is that Christopher Brooks is not playing instinctual football. When you are not comfortable in an offense, you cannot, and in any way, shape, or form, you cannot just play free. You are thinking, and when you are thinking, you are running slower. When you are running slower, you are not as productive. Christopher Brooks, if he's at Cal right now, is taking the ball and letting his instincts carry him.
Yeah.
That's why you see Miles Davis looks more free. He looks more reactionary. Christopher Brooks is just not there in this offense. And this is one of the demons of the transfer portal. As you bring new guys into an offense, it takes them time to assimilate. And that's exactly what Christopher Brooks is dealing with. The BYU fan Saturday that continues to say Christopher Brooks sucks, or he doesn't suck. The guy is in a completely new environment.
Yeah.
And he's trying to learn a completely new offense, a completely new run scheme, an O-line scheme, new offensive linemen. Like, I cannot tell you, and we should ask Harris about this on Wednesday when Harris LaChance joins us, thanks to our friends at Papa Murphy's Pizza. Offensive linemen play with running backs. And when you know what that running back is going to do, it makes your job that much easier.
Yeah.
BYU offensive linemen don't know what he's going to do, so when he's back there and a run play is called, they're second-guessing their actions. And I think that's been the issue. You would hope by now, week 4, things would have smoothed over or gotten better. They have not.
Yeah.
Miles Davis comes into the offense.
Well, and again, what did Kalani say? Hey, you can only blame the offensive line for so long. So what's
I'm
he
telling
really
you,
saying? That this is a back problem?
It is not the offensive line. You are getting good, not great offensive line play. I agree that guys need to hold their blocks a little longer, be assignment sound on the offensive line, sure. Christopher Brooks has just not found his sea legs in this offense.
Yes.
That's the issue. Stop saying that guys, well, they suck. You don't play running back at BYU and suck. I mean, I that drives me crazy.
Yeah. It's a cop-out answer.
It is.
It's a cop-out.
And you're not benching him, but you have got to give other guys an opportunity because that's what's best for the football team.
Yes.
You can't worry about what's best for Puka Nacua. You've got to worry about what's best for the football team.
Yes.
And that goes for Chris Brooks or Miles Davis or anybody else on this roster. That's Kalani's job. And what's best for you is to stop grinding on those side hustles and get to trydaytrading.com/Monty. See that
was some of your best material right there. That was some of your best material.
That's what's best for you. trydaytrading.com/Monty. We've been telling you about the guys at TryDay Trading for a couple of weeks now. I cannot speak highly enough about what our viewers have told us and what our listeners have told us about their experience with those guys. We have several of our listeners that are going through the program, and they love it. And the thing that I would tell you is don't take their word for it. Get involved now because trydaytrading.com is absolutely your side hustle that you can scale into a full-time career. And, Jake, I think one of the things that you and I have learned over the last 5 years is that when you're constantly switching side hustles, there's not a whole lot of productivity in that.
Yeah, well, it's like having 10 running backs in the room and not having one that can hit the A-gap.
See what he did there?
See what I did there?
Why.
This is why it's sports and TryDay Trading. You see it all kind of goes together. So the point is that when you're trying different side hustles and it doesn't work out, you don't really have anything. You're just putting time and effort and energy into things that aren't working. So that gets frustrating. And then you're like, damn, I could have spent that time with my kids, or I could have spent that time on something that didn't work, doing something that I really enjoy or love to do or, need to do. I mean, we all have responsibilities outside of our job. And so the thing with TryDay that I just keep, hammering home is that they're not just saying, hey, here's a pile of money, go and do your best. They're not saying that.
Good luck.
Yeah, they're not saying that. What they're saying is, hey, go to the website, trydaytrading.com/Monty, watch the webinar. That's step one, because the reason the webinar matters, and we keep talking about it, is because once you watch the webinar, you can make a decision. Hey, is this for me or is this not for me? So when we talk about wasting time, TryDay Trading values your time, which is why they have the webinar. So make your decision there. If you decide to go forward, now what they're saying is, hey, we have a program that we believe in so much that we're going to let you go through the program and we're going to teach you how to do this. And then we're going to give you our money to trade with until you feel comfortable using your own money. And if you lose, it doesn't cost you anything.
Well, and the cool thing is you really do get high-level coaching at trydaytrading.com/Monty.
Yes.
And that's what you're going to learn in the free webinar. And again, it's free. It's no obligation. It costs you nothing. trydaytrading.com/Monty. Register, watch the webinar, and make a decision.
Yeah.
Because you deserve better. Your family deserves better. We talk about it every day on this show that we grind on a daily basis. And the thing that I love about TryDay Trading is they're us. They're you. They're a local business. They're in Lehigh. Ryan and the guys set up their business in Lehigh.
Yes.
They are Utahns. They are huge Jazz fans. And they're grinding to make a living doing the things that they're passionate about, which is day trading. And you could do the same thing. Stop paying somebody else to go to work every day, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're giving money away to that paycheck. It's the drug they give you to make you forget about your dreams. That every other week paycheck you're getting?
Yes.
They pay you that money so you won't go and chase your dream.
Your $100,000 paycheck. Let's just say you make $100,000. Let's use a nice easy number. That's $273 a day. You really think that you can't replicate that income out of a fully built-out program that's got hundreds, probably at this point, thousands.
$273 a day.
Is $100,000 over the course of a year.
You can't live on that.
Yeah.
Do better. Be better for your family. And trust me when I say you can do that and way more at trydaytrading.com/Monty. trydaytrading.com/Monty.
Do it, man. Just give it a chance.
I'm all in on it. I'm absolutely in on it. All right, let's get some of your comments in here as we talk BYU, Utah, and college football. Dan Davis says Michigan forfeited a loss to UCLA. Wouldn't even play the game. They wanted to play Hawaii and UConn. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But okay. Mike Phillips says, with a few rare exceptions, both these teams underachieve every year. That's in quotes because the reality is they're just not very good. I would totally disagree. I think that when you look at Utah won the Pac-12 last year, played in the Rose Bowl, took Ohio State, who's the number 3 team in the country, to the line.
Was moments away.
I mean, come on. I don't think that.
And I think for BYU, certainly none of us can sit here and deny that the only reason the Big 12 has interest is because of what BYU has done over probably the last 4 seasons, so that's why I say, like, let's not sit here and say that they're not very good. Like, they may not be Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia good, but these are 2 quality programs, and these are 2 programs that really should get and find a new home as far as, the Pac-12 and all that's concerned, and obviously BYU with the Big 12.
Yep. M. Morris says the running game worked when Nacua was in the game. Well, I think that's been the key the whole season. You haven't had the explosive weapons on the outside to loosen up the linebackers of Oregon or to loosen up the linebackers of Wyoming. And when teams like Wyoming, and by the way, I think it's really important to point this out, Wyoming does not suck. I mean, that is a big physical bruising football team that wants to suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
And when you can't get the ball down the field, that's what's going to happen. I think you bring in Puka. I think Hill loosens them up with big plays. I mean, I think one of the things that really mattered, that catch by Isaac Rex on the sideline was a huge play in this game. Yeah. I think it really matters, man. So you have to get, and this is why Dallin Holker is such a head scratcher. Right? I mean, what is it that you didn't see in the offense that you felt like? That's why I say, like, it was disappointing the kid didn't want to fight for his job. And, oh, by the way, he still hasn't answered a text message asking him for comment. Yeah. He doesn't want to be accountable.
Yeah.
He does not want to be accountable. And so that's what's so confusing about this offense is I agree with you. The offense is better with Puka on the field. Gunner Romney accomplishes the same thing. You've got to have the explosive play up top to loosen up the opponent linebackers. And I'm telling you right now, that's a key to victory against Notre Dame. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Yeah. That is a key to victory against Notre Dame. Xavier Pena, what's up, my guy? He says, I tried telling you they will always be Utah's little brother. Well, frankly, who's having a better season? Well, I'm going to tell you it's BYU. It's not a thing of they'll always be Utah's little brother.
And I think this whole concept, like the little brother thing is always going to be alive and well for BYU and Utah fans. Like it's always going to be talked about, but I have to be honest. And again, you need to understand, like I don't know if Xavier, you're a little bit newer to the show or whatever, no disrespect, but we're not from Utah. We're not BYU or Utah fans. We are football fans. We are fans of the game. And I think that when you look at the situation in the state of Utah right now, the fact is BYU has a ton of momentum. They're heading into the Big 12. They're talented. They've had quarterback after quarterback prospect. Like, you're in a great place. Are they better than Utah? I don't know. Ask me when Utah tries to join the Big 12 and we get the Holy War every year. I don't know, but to sit here and say that BYU is the little brother of Utah, I just disagree with it. That's what I'll say. I just disagree with that notion.
It drives me crazy, frankly. It does because, oh, yeah, exactly. See, Jeremy Bolton, damn it, I love you. Let's hug. Yes. Oh, yes. Jeremy Bolton says, let's just admit how freaking good Jaron Hall is and how hot his mom is. As BYU fans, we're lucky to have him.
Well,
I am telling you now that Jaron Hall, and this is the thing that we do. Jaron Hall is remarkable. He is, the improvement, I said it last week, the improvement that we've seen. Think about what we were saying about Jaron Hall during the summer.
He's better fucking execution.
He's not that guy because he can't stay healthy. You can't count on him. You can't believe in him. Now you can count on him. He's stayed healthy. He's that guy. Like, he is playing smarter, better football. And you look at Cam Rising, I think you compare Cam Rising and Jaron Hall, and Jake, I don't see any way that you take Cam Rising over Jaron Hall. I think he is by far the best quarterback in the state, Jaron.
Well, and here's the thing. I think with Jaron, one of my biggest complaints personally was that he made bad decisions in the running game as a quarterback. Like, one of the big things last year where he made a mistake was that play at the goal line against ASU, where he took a beating and was out and then wasn't able to play full strength against Baylor. Like, we all remember that storyline.
Yeah.
So when I look at Jaron versus Cam, I have to say Jaron's deep ball is on par, if not better than Cam Rising's deep ball right now, and we already know what kind of athlete Jaron is. So I don't think that Jaron is head and shoulders better than Cam, but what I am going to say is I do think he edges him out a little bit. I think his deep ball is really good. Run game decisions have been much better this year. You haven't seen him running nearly as much, but he has when he's needed to, which I think they both do really well. I just think Jaren's the better athlete of the two. I think that the leadership that Cam has shown over the last 2 seasons is huge. And I think that while Cam has gone through a ton of adversity, quite a bit more than Jaren's had to go through, I think they both lead the football, their unique teams, or their respective teams, really well. So I don't love having the Jaren versus Cam conversation, but if you ask me who I'd take, I'd probably have to go with Jaren.
Well, and I think it's pretty simple why I take Jaren Hall. He has got this is why. This is why.
Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
Here's why I take Jaren Hall.
Just take a dice at AC. Okay?
Because
Just
I'm a
relax.
BYU homer. No, I'm kidding.
How cold is the blue Kool-Aid today?
I mean, man, I'll tell you what. The reason that I take Jaren Hall over Cam Rising is very simple: the ability to make explosive plays, and I think that's what's required in the modern day NFL, and I think that's what is required in modern day college football. Jaren Hall is able to be explosive with his legs and his arm. Yes, Cam Rising is the same. Jaren Hall is one of the best deep ball throwers in college football. I look at the accuracy, the outside shoulder throws that Jaren Hall is making, the intelligence with which he is making those throws, ball placement, his total game, the time that he has very clearly spent with John Beck improving, coaching, working, that's all paid incredible dividends. I think Jaren Hall is playing the best football in the state, and I think we are very lucky to have two guys, and I take Logan Bonner out of this conversation now, by the way.
You have to. You absolutely have to.
Yeah, I don't even think I'm being a hater with that. I think when you look at the way that this season is played out for Utah State, it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
And again, I think when you look at what these two quarterbacks in Cam Rising and Jaren Hall are doing, they're very close. I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
They're leaders, they're performers, and they're teammates.
Yeah.
And those three things are really critical factors from the quarterback on any successful team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're getting that at a very high level. Logan Bonner cannot throw 5 interceptions against UNLV.
Well said.
I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
You cannot do that.
Well, and I think the problem is that it's 5 interceptions on the heels of the fan thing and the booing thing and like criticizing your program, and like it just is. It's frustrating when you're in the position Utah State is in, because you don't get the same opportunity recruiting that Utah gets or that BYU gets, right? You have to fight for everything that you get. Not that those two programs don't, right? Like BYU and Utah work their ass off to recruit, no doubt about it. But if we're just being honest about it, Utah State is having to pick through the secondary talent that BYU and Utah and other, P5s have already gone through. So to me, if I'm looking at this season for Utah State and I'm Logan Bonner, I'm like, damn, dude, like we've just had a rough go of it here. But this is precisely why I say this 24.5 point spread for BYU versus Utah State's a problem. Because I'm telling you, if you're any kind of athlete, if you're any kind of competitor, if you're any kind of football player, you're not going to LaVell Edwards Stadium as, quote, the little brother in the state, because that is what Utah State is. You are the little brother as far as football programs are concerned. You're not going to LaVell just to kind of walk up and play a football game. You're going there to hurt some feelings. And that's why I say injury management's your biggest concern, not actually winning the football game if you're BYU. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yep, totally agree. Football 50 in 5 minutes. We'll get back to the NFL and this Tua Tagovailoa concussion. Make sure you check out our good friends at Barbecue Pit Stop, barbecuepitstop.com. Worked out the Traeger yesterday,
dude,
Jake. Now,
and my God.
Now, listen.
Yeah.
I did something because I didn't want to hurt your feelings yesterday. And if you watch the show, you know that on this show, if you have testosterone and you have blood in your veins, and you are a man who likes, dogs and football, you eat drumettes.
Do you even live?
If you're a cat guy and you're more of a guy that goes bird watching, like Jake, you eat flats.
Obviously not.
But yesterday, as a man and as a father, and Jake is
my son. And
my
as a true leader of the program.
Thank you. As a better version of Jaren Hall than Jaren Hall, I knew.
Are we clear on that?
I had to step up and eat some flats yesterday.
Yeah.
It's sort of a natural reflex.
Now, honestly, I went downstairs and I contemplated vomiting. I did not.
Right.
Only because I did not want to waste the best seasoning I think I've ever had on a wing.
Dude.
What's the name of that seasoning?
Asada. It
Asada
literally
seasoning.
is called Asada seasoning.
The best seasoning I have ever had on a wing. Asada seasoning from Barbecue Pit Stop.
Yes.
It was
Unreal.
amazing.
So I said, yeah.
Amazing. As I watched the Chicago Bears, my are and we, the Chicago
Ditka.
Bears, Ditka and Jimmy Mack, Walter Payton, he's dead. The point
All
is,
gas, no break.
I ate wings and watched the Chicago Bears win a football game. All hail the 46 Buddy Ryan defense. The point is, with the, I don't know why I'm talking like that, the Asada seasoning, amazing. Get to any of Utah 5 locations for Barbecue Pit Stop, Layton, Logan, Lehigh, St. George, and of course our good friends in Murray, Salt Lake City. Ask them for the Asada seasoning. I mean, Clinton.
It's bomb, dude.
Clinton down at the Lehigh store. Mont, you got to try this. This is the one.
We roll up for the BYU ticket giveaway. What was that? 2 weekends ago now. And he's like, hey, are you guys cooking the wings? Or are we cooking the wings? Or what's the game plan? I'm like, hey, you're Clinton from Barbecue Pit Stop. Let's see what you got. Dude rolls up with a full table in like, you know that paper they use on meats? He just dumps out like all 150 wings that we...
Butcher block paper.
Yeah, butcher block paper. Dude dumps out a massive pile of wings and just starts dumping Asada seasoning on these wings. Ever since then, dude.
Arranges them neatly on the paper, and he's like, you got to let them rest. You got to let the seasoning bring, you crisp them
And
up.
what I appreciated was how genuine he was. He was not kidding. He was like, hey, dude, don't touch these wings.
Relax.
They need to rest.
Relax.
Chill out.
Let the seasoning break down the fats in the wings. It was amazing. Asada seasoning.
Yes.
Go to barbecuepitstop.com. Get the Asada seasoning. Ask the guys on the Barbecue Pit Stop website about it. Barbecuepitstop.com. And Logan, Layton, Lehigh. Hello. Logan, Layton, Lehigh, St. George, and of course our good friends in Murray. Get it now. By the way, you can also buy a Traeger Ironwood 885.
Man, it comes through every time.
Ooh,
so clutch.
The best wings
clutch,
yesterday.
Dude.
The
so
best
clutch.
wings.
Yeah. This is why I'm fat.
Yeah. This is why. This is why. Okay, football 50 in 2 minutes. Ken Williams says no, BYU shouldn't beat Utah State by 30. They're a 24.5-point favorite.
No, he's saying they should. No, BYU should.
Should. Oh, no, they're not covering 24. Stop.
I don't know. Yeah,
Stop
I mean, I just can't see it.
It's the wagon wheel. It's Taysom's ankle. What are you talking about? No, I'm serious. Kendall Dean says, guys, BYU O-line has 0 push off the ball against Baylor and Oregon. I totally disagree. I think in the second half of the Baylor game, I've watched that Baylor game multiple times. I thought BYU's offensive line got better and better and better as the time went on in that game. Okay. Oregon, everybody got crushed against Oregon.
I want people to remember something. So remember when Marshawn was in his prime for the Seahawks? You knew the ball was going to Marshawn. There was never a doubt about it. You don't know who that guy is in the backfield. Yeah, can the O-line get better push? Absolutely. That's always going to be something that Harris and the boys work on, right? But let's not sit here and sugarcoat it. This running back room needs to get it going.
Yes.
It's time. It's week 5 now we're heading into. Like, let's go.
Yep, totally agree. I think the offensive line has been fine. Xavier Pena says, remember when BYU had Max Hall and Austin Collie? BYU will never change. They bombed the Utes that season. Well, maybe. It was good to see Max Hall back at the yard, by the way. Always good to see him. Ken says this game is a trap game for BYU.
100%.
I've only been saying that for how many weeks now?
You have.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeremy Bolton says, LOL, trap games isn't every game a trap game. It is. I don't know about every game, but there's a lot of games on your schedule that are trap games. Tell me Liberty and Dixie State, Utah Tech are not trap games. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Let's see. Ryan Buckley, Brandt is a big loss. Thomas Yasmin is that guy. Utah is depth at tight end. Well, Dallin Holker is probably going to be depth at tight end next year. I mean, I don't know who steps up. Money Parks is a guy that I want to see more from for the Utes. Like, I want more Money Parks from Utah.
Yeah.
And it was really good to see him have that catch. I need more of that because as the weeks go on, and I understand that Devon Valey stepped up and he's gotten bigger and better. I totally understand that. I need more from other guys.
Right.
I truly need more. And I don't know what that looks like necessarily, but as we get into football at 50 presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza, papamurphyspizza.com. Use the promo code Monty25, M-O-N-T-Y, Monty25 to get 25% off your purchase of $25 or more. I just want more from the wide receivers at Utah. That's what it really comes down to.
Any football player knows what that means. Let's go.
You got to step up. I love Dalton Kincaid. He's going to be a weapon. He's going to be a linchpin, if you will, a pillar of this offense. Dalton Kincaid now. I just don't know what you do at the wide receiver here because Devon Vele feels like he should be better than he is. Solomon Enos should be better than he is. Maybe they just don't have that guy. But when we talk about quarterbacks in the passing game and why does Utah not have Heisman Trophy quarterbacks, this is why. Because they don't throw the ball all over the yard.
Yeah.
And I still maintain it's the one Achilles heel in Kyle Whittingham's resume is that he has not had elite, consistent quarterback play in his time. I mean, you take Chase Hansen and make him a linebacker in the NFL. I mean, that's who Kyle Whittingham's been. And you have a guy now that can make every throw and throw it all over the place, and you still are not a great throwing team.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do. I want more out of the wide receivers at Utah. That much is very clear. All right, did Tua Tagovailoa, how is that pronounced, Tagovailoa? Tagovai your mama. Did Tua Tagovailoa suffer a concussion against Buffalo? You be the judge. And I don't know your thoughts on this. Watch his head hit the ground. Watch his hands go to, which is what they're selling. I don't buy this for a second, Jake, that Tua Tagovailoa has a back injury here. Matt Milano pushes him. He hits his head.
But this is so obviously what it is. Like, you can sit here and say that it was a back injury and back and brain is neurological or whatever, and that might be true, but again, he wouldn't have had an issue if his head didn't hit the ground. I mean, you can clearly see the guy is shook. Like, I don't know why we can't just say, hey, yeah, his bell got rung, he passed the concussion protocol, and they let him back in the game, because that's what I'm telling you, that's what the investigation is going to find. Like,
is what it
is. Hey, dude got his bell rung. He was able to pass the protocol test. Maybe we need to review that portion. He passed the test. He's back in the game. That's what it was.
Is he one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL?
No, he's not. He's not. He's not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You're going to have to show it for more than, whatever this is. We're heading into week 4, whatever it is. You're going to have to show me this level of play for, 8, 9, 10 weeks, because it's your first time doing it. Like, I know, Patty Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Josh Allen. I know all these guys can play.
How good is Jalen Hurts? I mean, this is a guy right now. Jalen Hurts is completing 67% of his passes, 916 yards, 4 scores, and a pick.
Yeah, I mean, those are good numbers. Like four touchdowns to 1 pick thus far into the season is pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. And yeah. I think Philadelphia is one of the better stories in the NFL at the quarter, coming up to the quarter pole here. I mean, I just don't think the Eagles are all in on Jalen Hurts. But how can you not be? I mean, the guy is actually absolutely balling out. But the other thing you got to remember is there's only one guy in this league with 1,000 passing yards, and it's Josh Allen. And no, he's not the best quarterback in the NFL. And I know you want to battle over this. I will come over there and I will punch you right in the face.
Yeah, what's the edge that Aaron Rodgers has in your mind over Josh Allen?
Experience, and I think just the ability to make that play every time. Little things that Aaron Rodgers does, and it honestly, I have a little frog in my throat. Like I want.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm hearing you say this,
all
dude.
over this table.
I can't believe this right now.
But Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL because on 3rd and 4, he's pulling you off sides. You know you can't jump offside. If you do, it's a first down. He's getting you anyway. It's that snap where you've got too many guys on the field and he's going to snap the ball and get a penalty against you.
Yeah, and Jimmy's running his ass off to get off the field and still can't.
It is the dime piece. It is the absolute dime piece down the field. He's just everything you want in a quarterback in the regular season. I don't want Aaron Rodgers to win me a game in the postseason because I don't know that he can.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers is an absolute freak in the regular season. Ayahuasca be damned, that guy is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. And the numbers may not paint that picture, but I look at the guys that are ahead of him, have me an argument about Matthew Stafford.
I mean,
Matthew Stafford's the reigning Super Bowl champion. I'm taking
They
Aaron
both?
Rodgers 2, 3, 4 times before I ever take Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, they both have one Super Bowl. I would put up a big fight that their passing yards for their career are probably pretty close. Like, I don't know, man. I think that Aaron Rodgers is an awesome quarterback. There's no doubt, but he's not a winner, and that's my biggest problem. He can do it all season long, and he can win MVP after MVP, but my problem is I can't count on him in big games. Like, it took you everything that you had yesterday to beat Tom Brady with a massively injured Bucs offense.
That's the best defense in the NFL in Tampa.
Yeah.
And he, on that first drive, he made them look silly.
Yeah, that might be true.
I mean, but by the way, that Vita Vea play where he pounded Jones at the goal line,
yeah.
Vita Vea dropped out of his defensive tackle position into coverage. Rodgers throws the ball to Jones, and Vita Vea blows him up, and Jones fumbles. It's an if you haven't seen it, it's an incredible play. So, again, best quarterback in the NFL right now is...
I'm taking Josh Allen, but...
You're taking Josh
yeah.
Allen. Okay. I guess we'll agree to disagree.
Which is fine.
Yeah. We'll you know.
Yeah.
Best team in the NFL right now.
I don't think there is a best team in the NFL right now, if I'm being honest. It was the Bills before yesterday, but I don't know that there is a best team in the NFL right now.
Well, I think if there's a best team in the NFL right now, I mean, Philly's got to be in the conversation.
I mean, Philly's there. You probably got to put the Rams in that conversation on some level just because they're the Rams.
I think it's Buffalo. If I had to pick one.
And this is my problem with the quarterback conversation, too. You know, I love having the conversation, but it's like it was 1 week, and you did it against a banged-up Bucs team. Like, that's my problem. I look at who the best team in the league is. It's the same logic. Like, hey, it was 1 week. The Bills are still going to dominate you. You know, they just had a bad week.
Yep, I don't disagree with that. We'll see. We'll see, man. I don't know. I think it's a really interesting period of time in the NFL. The old guys are fading. The new guys are coming. It's Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, all these guys.
Is that the
Smoking Joe?
Is that the new arms race? We'll see. Joe Burrow actually rebounded pretty well. Football at 50% by Papa Murphy's Pizza.
No one goes all in on made-from-scratch freshness like Papa Murphy's. We go all in on quality, all in on craft. And on the Triple Pep Pizza, we go all in on pepperoni. Because when you go all in, people notice. Go all in with a limited-time Triple Pep Pizza, topped with 3 types of pepperoni for just $11.99. Papa Murphy's. Change the way you pizza.